Hey guys, welcome back to another one of CCA's interview, which is part of our outreach series. It's your girl Leah, as you know already or don't. I am a CCA intern and a junior at St. Peter's University, located in Jersey City, New Jersey. I am majoring in biology, aspiring to become a craniofacial surgeon. I too was born with a facial difference called golden heart syndrome that came with a long road of surgeries, therapies, and a lot of rehabilitation, but you guys already know already, it never stopped me from achieving any of my goals, especially from my biggest goal, which is to be a light for you guys. So today I am joined with Jaz Gray, aka Dr. Jaz. Dr. Jaz Gray is a narrative researcher with expertise in entertainment and patient narratives who is interested in both how people in marginalized communities can use narrative to develop resiliency and how the media production process can be used to empower those communities. She speaks, moderate panels, and lead workshops on a range of topics, including the power of stories, well-being, healthy self-image, patient-centered care, health equity, empowerment, media representation, and resilience. Dr. Gray has featured on affiliate networks for NBC, ABC, Fox, discussing her advocacy work on media representation of marginalized communities like those with craniofacial difference. Dr. Gray is currently an assistant professor in the communication division at Pepperdine University, where she looks forward to continuing and support a new, diverse generation of professionals in the communication. Welcome, Jasmine. It is a pleasure to have you on our series.
Hi
Thank you.
there. I'm glad to be here, Leah.
Thank you for joining us and sharing your time with us. How are you today?
I'm doing pretty well today. I am out here in Los Angeles, California. We had some rain last week, but it's a beautiful sunny day. So there's nowhere I'd rather be than right here in this conversation with you.
Oh my god. You said LA. I always wanted to move to LA.
You gotta come on out here.
Wait,
Listen,
are you from LA?
no, I'm originally from Memphis, Tennessee. So I'm a Southern girl at heart. That I had to come on out here to Cali to get some of the sunshine and to get
No,
access to LA and all that LA has to offer.
for real. Like I've been there one time, but I'm like, I need to go back again. I love LA. I love me some LA.
I would love to have you come out and then we can hang out here and I'll
Yes.
show you around.
Wow. I would love to meet you in person. Oh, love to. Okay. So, how I would like to start this interview is would you start off telling us a little bit about yourself? Even though I did like a little intro in the beginning, tell us something different.
Sure, let's see. What can I tell you that's not in the bio? Um, I am passionate about storytelling. I believe that story transforms the soul. I think it changes how we think, it changes how we feel about ourselves and others,
Hmm.
and it changes our capacity to do good in the world.
Right.
So I'm very intentional about advocating for and championing the power of storytelling while
Right.
also being aware that, particularly for our community, storytelling has been used as an exploitation tool
Right.
where people who are just out of pure curiosity or out of a desire to make money off of our stories
Right.
will use our natural desire to be heard and be seen and to have our voices matter. They'll use that to take
Hmm.
advantage, to see
Right.
how much they can get from you, how much you're willing to share without necessarily being concerned about whether you're compensated for your time or your work or about some of the health consequences for
Hmm.
us when we tell traumatic things that we've been through. So
Right.
I'm very passionate about making sure our community is aware when they go into these situations where they have the opportunity to quote unquote tell their story, that they're
Hmm.
aware of what that could mean for them personally, their emotional and mental health, as well as what that should mean as far as their level of agency when they're
Hmm.
in negotiations with different people about telling their story and just letting them know how much power they have to decide parameters around how, when they tell their story and what benefits they receive from that.
Right. That's very important. And I did hear one of your famous writings on Encounter.
Oh
Oh my god! It was so good. I think
my
that was my favorite one. Like the way you just said it, and it was like, it was so good. It was so
oh
good.
I'm glad you enjoyed that. Spoken word is a form of storytelling and performance
Mhm.
that I'm so grateful that I stumbled across. When I was younger, the first thing I wanted to be when I grew up was an entertainer. And I
Yeah.
thought I wanted to be an actress and a singer and a dancer, and I wanted to be in front of the camera.
Oh, for
And
real.
so, what I realized though, having a craniofacial condition, so my condition didn't necessarily it didn't present itself when I was really young. It presented itself starting when I was around 10 or 11.
Right.
So right around the time I was really getting into theater, singing and acting and all those things, I started to become more and more disfigured physically.
Mhm.
And I went from booking a lot of auditions back in our hometown, Memphis, Tennessee, to being able to not being able to look auditions and having people turn me away. And I'm realizing in that period of time that
Right.
the only thing that's different between the first jobs I was getting to where I was all the rejection was that my physical appearance had changed.
Right.
And I really went through many years of trying to reconcile what that means for how I see myself, but also what I'm going to do with my life and all these gifts and talents that I felt like God had given me. And
Mhm.
so, fast forward years later, I'm now in my 30s, and I'm realizing that some of those same skill sets I had then years ago that were kind of pushed out of me due
Right.
to barriers and due to discrimination and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Now I'm realizing I can reclaim those talents and skill sets and use them as a tool to talk about the things that we've been through and to advocate
Right.
for change for our community. So that's what spoken word gives to me, an added tool to be able to do that.
Yes, I love that. What's it called? That's crazy what you said, like, when you were younger, you wanted to become an actress and be out there. Cause for me, it was totally opposite. Cause I'm like, I always want to be hidden and like, I wasn't like, um, confident in myself back then. So I was like, oh, like shy, da, da, da. But like to hear someone say that with a facial difference, like, oh, I want to become this and that, that is such a different outlook for me to, cause like, so I'm thinking, I'm like, wow, like I never thought of that. But now, like I want to do the same thing, like, be out there and, advocate, be a light for others. So I'm
That's
glad that
great.
you're doing. Yeah, yeah,
It's like I said, it's taking me years to get here. So
yeah.
from 10 to 34, that's 20 something years of dealing with a society that has not accepted people with disabilities, and particularly those who have facial differences, and having to undo the internalized we
Mhm.
call it ableism, or just like that internalized um inferiority that
Mhm.
you feel trying to interact in society, trying to make your dreams come true, and people are telling you, and even without using words, that you're not enough, that you are not like them. They're afraid of difference. They don't think you fit in. So
Right.
dealing with all those things, it has a consequence for us. And so it's taken me to my 30s to really begin to undo some of that, a lot of that, through
Right.
therapy, through a constant practice and habit of adjusting my mindset about how I feel about myself,
Mhm.
and also doing the work of changing the society around me. Because I shared this with my students even just yesterday. It's very easy for people to have a like, oh, it's just on you. You think you can, like if you just think about yourself differently and just have better self worth, and everything else will be fine. And what I tell people is that you can have as high self esteem as you want to have, but when you walk outside that door, you are constantly interacting with other people. You're
Mm-hmm.
interacting with systems, and you're interacting with structures that are outside of your control.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not in your, first of all, your identity. There's a theory we use in communication that's based in psychology called social identity theory,
Mm-hmm.
and it says how we see ourselves and our identity isn't just internal. We learn about who we are based on our interactions with other people. So you're constantly interacting with a society that is making you feel like different is bad, or you're
Right.
you can't do this or that. Then that's going to impact how you see yourself. And not only that, but you're having to be extra careful when you go into these different spaces, like, or you just have to be extra aware, like when you're looking for employment, when you're when I when I went to interview at these with these production companies and producers who had my resume, who had said they wanted to see me because my resume was strong, they actually were actually seeing me for the first time,
Mm-hmm.
and I could tell for many of them when I walked into the room that I was not what they were expecting visually. And so what that meant was a lot of the same people who had saw my resume and thought that I would be a great fit for the job in person, they didn't necessarily think so anymore. And part of that has to do with um, an ideology around beauty, and it's really prevalent and noticeable in the entertainment industry. That the entertainment industry is in some ways a microcosm of what we see in our larger society, where we judge people based on outside appearance, and people
Mm-hmm.
that do not have what we consider the ideal appearance are not the people that we necessarily assume can do a role. For those of us with disabilities, in particular facial disfigurement or difference, that looks like people feeling like you're not competent, people feeling like them taking a chance on you means that they're also having to make room for your illness or all these other things, and
Mm-hmm.
not really accounting for how amazing it is to have someone who is like us and who has been through everything that we've been through, and comes into the room with a work ethic that is unlike anyone they've ever seen, and someone who has a level of resilience that is unlike anyone they've ever seen, someone who has a perspective on life and on
Mm-hmm.
what's important, and someone who understands empathy and consideration, someone who's emotionally intelligent. These are
Mm-hmm.
all the things that we bring to the table based on an expertise of lived experiences, having overcome and dealt with a lot of challenges related to how other people see us. So these are benefits that we have to make sure we know about ourselves as people who have facial differences, and that we're communicating those those positive attributes, those skill sets that we bring to counteract what certain aspects of society and certain people will try to tell us about ourselves.
Right, right. You're so right. Because in society today, people's viewpoint of people who have facial differences, or either like if people have visible or non-visible disabilities, as soon as they, look at us, it's like a whole like commotion, like, oh, we can't do this, or we can't do that, all this stuff. So if we coming together like as we are doing right now, um, speaking about the situation, bring awareness and, advocating about this is such an amazing thing to do. Um, my next question for you is, what made you become a professor? Because to become a professor, you have to stand out and speak in front of a whole crowd, or not even a crowd, or like a bunch of people, and they're just automatically looking at you, paying attention to you. Um, yeah, what made you become a professor, and what does it take to become one?
That's a great question, Aaliyah. So you're so right. Not only are you standing up in front of people and everyone has to look at you, but you're also having to do a lot of talking. And one of the things people don't realize, if you have a kind of facial condition, is sometimes it can be very challenging to physically speak.
Right.
So look at the girl who has had all of these challenges with being able to even eat, to be able to not have I don't have I have facial paralysis on one side of my face. I don't have feeling in it. So who now has a role in being seen in front of people and speaking to people and having what I say matter to that person.
Right.
And it's a complete 180 from how I felt years ago when I first started this journey of having a craniofacial condition. And I could not have ever imagined myself being a professor.
Right.
What I knew was that God had given me a voice, and I
Mm.
always felt like I had something to say that's worth hearing. And I had people affirm me along the way, whether it was my family, whether it was mentors, that my voice mattered, and that people were inspired or were learning something from certain things that I had to say. And I think having someone being able to say something to someone that impacts them was probably some of the earlier experiences that eventually led me to becoming a professor. The other thing for me is I'm very inquisitive. So I was always that kid that was asking a million questions. I'm still like that today. I ask a lot of questions. And I think that's the other aspect of being a professor that I part of being a professor is the teaching and the speaking in front of people. That the other part of it is being able to look at all this information, whether it's articles that other people have written before me, textbook data, and see all these students in the classroom. How do I bridge together the thoughts of the experts that we're reading with the experiences, the understandings that these students are bringing in based on what they read and based on them bringing in their own lived experiences, and how do I make space in the classroom to have substantive conversations about these different topics. And for me, it's rooted in being someone who's constantly ready to learn,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm so interested to hear what people have to say, and I'm asking them to share more. And so and then the other part of being a professor is research. So I'm actually able to research the entertainment industry, and doing research is all about asking great
Right.
questions and then doing the data collection to be able to have answers or address the questions that you asked. So anyway, that's a long way to say that I had some earlier experiences and then certain aspects of my personality that really came together and aligned over time.
Mm-hmm.
And then as far as being a professor, I think that my educational journey really had a big impact too. I went to an undergraduate university where I was in the honors college. And part of being in the honors college was this idea that research was embedded into what we did. And so I had experiences early on doing research. And I also was a part of a program called 𝐷𝐿. There's a disparity in education like it is like there are in a lot of other areas with people of color not necessarily historically having access to opportunities
Mm-hmm.
like education and like being a professor.
Mm-hmm.
So there was this program called 𝐷𝐿 that would look for really smart people of color to train them how to be to on the road to getting a PhD. Like these
Oh,
are
for
the
real.
things you can do
Yeah.
earlier on, even in the undergrad stage, to prepare yourself to get a PhD. I did the program not wanting to get a PhD. I just did it because I was in the honors college, and because I did it because I was in the honors college, and because it was something that we just did.
Right.
Now realizing years later that because I did that program, I had some of that um, those skill sets already developed along the
Right.
way. So God is so good in that way
Yeah.
that He can drink a bigger drink for us and we can drink for ourselves. That's a really thing that's Oprah Winfrey quote that I think is so true. And so the trajectory of my life is a combination of God seeing something special and unique about my journey and just blessing me with people and opportunities to align with on my path and just propel me forward to where I am now.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And like what you said earlier about how like our like obstacles and like challenges like growing up like it builds us as like to make as a person today, you know. So one thing excited me about speaking with you today is that you are also a Black woman with a facial difference who is proud of all her identities. How did it feel for you to meet other women of color with a facial difference or a physical difference?
Aaliyah, I was almost starting to cry when you introduced yourself at the beginning of this YouTube. I almost started crying because it's like it's so rare
Yeah,
to interact with each other.
right.
And for my generation, so my parents were figuring out my diagnosis when the internet was just getting it was past some of the infancy stages of the internet that it wasn't where it is now. So
Right.
there was this search engine thing called Ask Jeeves, and it was before Google, and they would type in words and phrases to try to get information about uh, my illness, and so that was their way of like trying to find information,
Oh
and
wow.
so they were able to get me help physically, but there
Right.
was no community. Like when I went to the doctors and stuff like that, first of all, our conditions are rare anyway. But then
Very.
there was no other people of color. There's definitely no other women of color, or Black women in particular that I was interacting with. God did allow me to cross paths with a Brazilian girl at the time because we were young. She was
Mm-hmm.
maybe like 7 or 8 years older than me. So that was
Yeah.
my first time meeting really anybody else who had a condition, and particularly
Right.
a person of color. That it was I didn't meet another Black woman who had a craniofacial condition until I was an adult. Until I was
Mm-hmm.
probably I think it was probably my friend who's now also another advocate. So I went my whole life without really seeing or needing
Me too.
another Black woman.
Hmm.
And so I'm grateful that the more visible we are, the less true that becomes for future generations, right?
Right.
And because of the internet and because of technology, there are opportunities for them to and their parents to do they're doing the research to see like what other Black women or what other people of color are out there who have these conditions, and how can I connect my kid with this person so that they can feel encouragement and feel like
Right.
they're not alone. Because all of these identities are overlapping in a way that creates something that's really powerful and unique. And we
Mm-hmm.
need spaces where all of those different identities can be honored and valued, and
Mm-hmm.
where it's safe to be all of who we are. And
Mm-hmm.
that happens the more we're able to have moments like this. So I
Mm-hmm.
thank you for creating a platform like this, and for
Yeah.
the opportunity for us to really connect. And there's gonna be some Black girl um, watching our
Right.
video who is gonna know that she is not alone in this world because she sees us.
Right.
So that little Black girl with a craniofacial condition is gonna feel more empowered because of our presence and because of the advocacy work that we're doing. And so this series is so necessary, and I am excited for it to just continue to change lives.
Right, for real. So that's basically what's the whole motive for this whole outreach series. What's it called? When Miss Khadija, who's the outreach director, told me like, Aaliyah, you should start this series and I'm like shy. I'm like, oh my God. But then I'm like starting to like, think about like, the outcome, like you could be an influencer, you could be a role model to kids who has facial difference. You could be that first, African American woman who started like a little series for like people that need like a safe spot to come to and like learn about facial difference and learn about disabilities. So I'm like, oh my God, this is such a perfect opportunity, and to now use this platform and to be a face for the series is truly like a blessing. Now I have like I don't even know, like I would say like maybe like hundreds of people's in my DMs like currently right now, like, oh my God, Aaliyah, I watch your YouTube series. It's so good. Like people that I don't even know, but like have like a facial difference. I'm like, oh my God. Am I becoming an influencer? Like, what is going on? Like, I never had
Ooh,
this much
okay.
attention. I never had this much attention. So I'm
I
like, oh my
love
God,
that.
this is
I love
crazy.
that for you.
Thank
And
you.
what made me start tearing up too is you saying that you want to be a surgeon.
Ah.
Because wow, my doctor is 80 something years old, and so he's done this work literally for 60 years. From the
Mm.
time he was in his 20s to now he's 80, and he's still doing
Woo.
surgeries, and that's wonderful. But there has to
Right.
be a passing of the torch. There has to be a training of a new generation of medical professionals who can support
Mm.
our community.
Right.
And having someone like you in that role who is not only going to be great at the technical aspects of what it takes to save a person's life, but also
Mm.
attending to their whole person,
Right.
emotional health, and mental
Mm.
health, and just your presence
Right.
linking all of your identities into every state you go into. It doesn't matter the identity of the person you're treating, they're going to be able to be more authentically themselves because you're being authentically yourself. And it's very
Mm.
rare to see that type of presence in the medical space. So
Right.
I am 150% supportive of what you are doing with your life. And so I want to say congratulations already for the path that you're on. And I look forward to supporting you in any way that I can.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Likewise. What's it called? School and the years you have to be in school. Oh my God. But yeah, it's worth it at the end. But what made me decide to become a craniofacial surgeon is I just saw, I always wanted to, work in the medical field because I grew up in a hospital. But
Mhm.
there was this one quote that just stuck with me. I don't know who said it, but someone from CCA, it was like, be who you needed when you were younger. So once I
Mm,
read that, I'm like, boom, I have to do this. I
that's it.
understand everyone's, emotional health, like you said, physical state. I just want to, be a light for others and just, show the world that us people with facial difference or disability can do the same thing y'all can do. I'm excited about that, but not excited for the schooling, but
Listen, the thing about school is though, it depends on your perspective on it. If you're looking at like I'm enjoying learning about what I'm doing,
yes,
and the thing about medicine is even though it's a lot of years, you're actually spending a lot of years on the ground. So it's not
yes,
like it's not 7 or 8 years of just in school, quote
right,
unquote, learning in a textbook. Part of those years is actually you getting experience.
right,
And
which I love.
so that's the thing.
Yeah,
You're gonna once you get out the classroom and get into some clinical
right.
settings, you're gonna enjoy that opportunity to start, doing the work.
Right, right, right. Thank you so much, Dr. Jazz. It has been such a pleasure chatting with you today. If our audience wants to learn more about you, where can they follow you?
Follow me on Instagram at Jaz Gray Driven, Driden, on Instagram and on Twitter, and I am the Jaz Gray on Facebook.
We appreciate you sharing your time with us, and I look forward to chatting with you again in the future.
Same
Thank you.
here, Leah. Thank you. Bye.
Of course. Bye, guys. Okay, let's see.